So this is just a visual representation of the graphic flow. Um, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here. And you can see that we have all the gathering of texts, illustrations, scans, cameras, um, you know, all sorts of different inputs of images and text come in. Separate proofs can be made. You can make little proofs of images and illustrations, print them out, see what they look like. But once you've gathered all those, you will move into a layout phase. And oops, sorry about that. The layout phase is where everything comes together and you create the layouts. And then from there, you give it off to prepress. Oh, sorry about that. I'm getting a little mixed up with my buttons. Um, prepress will pre-flight it, and then they'll send them to the raster image processor. And from there, they'll make these proofs. So you'll have a color image proof here. And that is where they have this big inkjet printer that is calibrated to match their printing press, and they print color accurate proofs. And usually this is for the photographs and all the pages that have color on them. They'll print it to color match and for you to sign off on the color accuracy so that your company's logo matches what they're going to print, that the color photos are going to be how you want them to print. So it's a high quality color proofing system that will that you'll sign off on and say this is the correct color that the press operators will look at. And then they create another proof down here, which is this imposition proof. Um, and it shows the layout of whatever the product is. So if it's a brochure, it'll show the panels opened up and it will be backed up. So front and back will be aligned properly. If it's a booklet, it'll actually be printed into a little booklet, and then you can flip through the pages to make sure they're all in order. If it's some sort of packaging that's going to be folded up into a box or whatnot, then it'll be laid out where it can be cut out and folded up and make a physical dummy of whatever your product is so that they can prove that the layout is correct and that it's going to end up as the product that you want. And generally, this imposition proof is a low resolution proof, so it's cheaper. This color proof here can be really expensive if you have a lot of pages too. So, I mean, not really expensive, but it's more expensive. Color versus black and white, say. They can do the imposition proof, can be done in black and white or a very cheap color printing process. Just to show that everything is in order, that the pages are not going to be upside down, they're going to be in the correct order, that the sizing is right, and that sort of stuff. So you'll get two sets of proofs. You get a color image proof, a contract proof, and also an imposition proof that you'll sign both of those, and both of those act as the agreement, the contract for your product to be printed. And then the proofing cycle happens here. Then that's when they'll give you the proofs, and you can come back and you look at them. If you need to make corrections, it'll go all the way back through to the pre-flight stage and then have to go through the ripping again and then come out to these proofs. It goes through the rip because, and we'll talk about more of this in the pre-press section of the course, but the rip does a lot of the final computer manipulation of your artwork. So here's where the proofing cycle takes place between pre-press and the layout. Once you've signed off on that, then pre-press gives sends it to the plate setter here, and the plate setter makes the printing plates. The printing plates get sent to the press with the proofs, and so the press operator can see the proofs, see what the customer signed off on, make sure that they're matching that. And then after it's printed, it goes to finishing and and binding. Sorry, this slide's a little cut off, but this is where anything that happens to it to get it to its final stage happens. So if it's bound into a booklet, or if it's cut, folded, glued, or whatnot. So you can see that this is quite a product, uh, quite a flow here, a process. And that if you imagine there's people in each stage of this process, that's a lot of hands and time touching your artwork to get through the production process. And when the errors are more on this end, where you're designing and catching the errors, it's easier to fix and it doesn't cost as much. Once it gets through pre-press and you start bringing corrections into pre-press, it starts taking more time from pre-press. Um, so it can cost, it might be possible that a print shop could charge you for extra proofs if you have to make an excessive amount of extra proofing, because that costs ink and paper from their printers to make these proofs. And when it gets to the press, if there's an error at the press, then it has to go all the way back to you, to the designer, then back through pre-flight, through the plate making, and so on. So the farther along a job goes in the print production process, when an error is caught, the more expensive the error is, and the more time it's going to take to fix it and get it done right. As you can see, a lot of hands touch this. Here's just a alignment of the production flow, the images and text. You got the layout, pre-press, printing and finishing. And then finally, here's where that proofing cycle happens in there. So um, I cannot stress enough the importance of proofs, and that it's important for you to look very closely at them and realize that when you sign off on those, that you're committing to that's the way it's going to be. All right, thank you.